Gonna make an emergency candle today. There's a bunch of different videos out there on doing stuff like this. I wanted to do something a little bit different. And that is, first of all, I wanted my emergency candle in metal cans. A lot of people use mason jars. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is with a mason jar, you kind of only can have one or maybe two wicks in there. And in an emergency, I want to be able to have 3 in there. And part of the reason for that is I want the most heat off of it. But the second part of that is if your wick fails for whatever reason, I don't want to be sitting there trying to figure out how to get another one working. I bought this wick kit off of Amazon, and it's got a bunch of different things in here. Frankly, a lot of them I don't care about. Like this is for mason jars, for making them out of mason jars. But what I liked about this, get it out of the package here one-handed, is I like the base of these in here and the weight of them. And then I like the length of this. So the other thing that's out there is I can cut these to length. A lot of the pre-made ones out there, and there's nothing wrong with them, are only 6 inches long, which isn't long enough for what I want to do. So I'm going to use this. It is a little thinner than I like, and you can use a bunch of different wick material out there. There's some that are really huge. I wanted to be able to put 3 wicks inside of here and light all 3 if I want, or 2. So I have a little bit more of an adjustable heat source with this. So this was cheap. It's like $6. Comes with all that stuff. And then you want to get all vegetable shortening. So Crisco, this is the Walmart knockoff brand of shortening. This burns great as an emergency candle. I'm expecting one of these to burn for well over 100 hours, and I'm not exaggerating. Probably double that, to be real frank. I haven't tested one burning one completely non-stop, and that'd be a great test, but kind of waste, but could definitely do it. The mason jar ones will burn for, 80 hours out of a mason jar, and this is double the size of that. So we're gonna put one of these whole 3-pound canisters essentially inside there and make a candle out of it. And I like that these seal better. They won't go rancid. And you got that same thing with the mason jar, but I like being able to keep these waterproof, dry, and from a fire perspective, heat and glass is okay unless it gets shocked, and then it will crack. So if you accidentally get some water on it or something else. And a lot of people use these in a terracotta heater, where they'll take a terracotta pot and turn it upside down and sit it on there. That was actually the main reason I wanted this. And if I'm gonna heat a room, I want as much heat out of there safely as possible. And this is a great way to go about that. Now I'm gonna do something also a little different here. I have one of these plug-in 1500 watt heaters that I'm gonna use to boil water in this 5-gallon bucket. And I'm gonna put that shortening can, the whole can, in this bag, because these are cardboard wrapped foil inside of there, but it specifically says do not expose this can to heat. I see a lot of people actually try and be careful and put these in a pot, or they have to scrape this all out. I want to do this the easiest, cleanest way. That's like $12 on Amazon, $5, $5. This was $7 at Home Depot. Honestly, I probably had some old shortening I should have used. This will make 50 candles. And I use that for boiling water for all sorts of other things. So I wasn't really invested into this a whole lot. I've had this for a while. I picked up this and then had a paint can. You could use an old paint can. Probably wouldn't because of the paint residue that's in there. And you can use a mason jar. But I wanted multiple wicks inside of my candle. And let me get this set up, we'll plug it in and I'll show you it boiling. Okay, I took the top off of one of my cans, it looks just like this, and pulled this plastic off of there as well. The Crisco ones sometimes have a foil piece you have to pull back, but the Walmart knockoff do not. Grabbed a 2-gallon Ziploc bag. You may not have to do this, and you might be able to use a 1-gallon Ziploc bag. I did this 2-gallon Ziploc bag for a couple of reasons. One, I could put it inside my water tank like this and start it heating. Now I just plugged this in literally 45 seconds ago, and you can see how hot it's getting immediately. The other reason I did this 2-gallon bag is I didn't want water being exposed to that foil paper because it would weep out some of the shortening into the water, and I didn't want those to mix. I want this to be as the glare makes it look like it's doing something else. I wanted this to be as pure of vegetable oil I can for my candle. And the 2-gallon bag is tall enough that the top of it I can pinch with a clamp on my 5-gallon bucket. Now, I honestly don't think this is going to take 10 minutes. One word of caution, you don't want to let this get too low of water, because this will get hot enough to melt the plastic bucket. This is going to be done way before that ever happens. Like, this is not something I'm going to start and walk away from, because it's going to take 10 minutes tops for this to heat this up enough to turn that completely liquid. In fact, I can see it's already starting to melt on this far side and get soft. I think you can do a couple other things too. You can set this on your heat register to get it really soft so that it just takes a few minutes longer or whatever. But the other reason I wanted this 2-gallon bag is I'm actually going to use this as my funnel. I'm not going to try and pour it out of that container. I could, but I'm going to use this like a cake bag, like a cake decorating bag. I'm going to cut that corner off and use it to pour in there. And the reason I'm doing that is because I am going to get my wicks ready while that thing is heating up the water. Now I've grabbed another scrap piece of cardboard here, and I've set my can upside down on it and traced it with a Sharpie. And the reason I did that is because now I can look easily where I want to position my wicks and get them ready to go. So I'm going to set my phone down here for a minute and make 3 slices in there and pull my wick through these and get them ready to put in the can. You can see I made my 3 slits in the cardboard there, and I've got my buttons out of the kit that we got. I cut these lengths pretty long, like plenty long. There's a couple of reasons why I'm using this cardboard. The main reason is that when we go to put this in the freezer, we're going to need to, and we just put it in the freezer to have it set up faster. You don't have to put it in the freezer, but to put it in the freezer and have it set up quicker, I want to have those wicks exactly positioned how I want. You could do it with some painter sticks or a pencil across the top. A lot easier with this cardboard, especially with multiple wicks. The other thing I wanted to show you is to make this knot, I just did 4 or 5 overhand loops to basically make this fat knot on the bottom of that wick disc. If you just do one, it will pull through. And they do send some pieces of adhesive to hold that to the bottom of it. Could have used those. Honestly, it was just as easy to do a bunch of overhand loops in there. Those would maybe hold it flatter, but I also didn't want those coming off in the hot shortening that we're gonna pour in there. Here we are, we're about 3 minutes in, and that water is really starting to get hot. You can maybe see the steam rolling off of it. That shortening is gonna be liquid here in a matter of minutes. So let me go ahead and pull this last one tight, put it through that button, and then I'm gonna feed them through these slots and show you how we can look at the depth on the side of it to make sure they're the right height. I've pushed all my ropes through the slits that I made, and the reason I like this technique is those slits will actually grab the rope, the wick, and then I have them hanging out the bottom. You don't have to measure these or anything. We literally can take our cardboard, set it on top of our can and go, hey look, that's the right height right there. So now once we have the oil in there, we can just drop it in there, set it on top, and it can sit like that, and they'll sit up and the wicks are in place, in position. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can eyeball. I can see my ring is right where it needs to be on top of the can. So we're good for our wick holder while that sets up. After about 10 minutes, we're just about there. Give it another 60 seconds or so, minute, to get that last little chunk. Oh, it's going to fog up the can. It just about ready to be poured in. dumped in the first canister of vegetable oil and honestly took it up only to about half. I actually wanted a smaller can than this. I could have used the quart-sized ones, but they didn't have them in metal, and I wanted it metal. I've used those before. I was a little surprised that that whole 3-pound canister only took it up about halfway, but that's okay. I already had the water hot, already had stuff to make it, so I could fill it up to that level and just use it that way, but I'm not going to. Knowing this will burn well over 200 hours with just one wick lit with that much vegetable oil. Honestly, with 3, I think it'll go over 100 hours. It'll burn a long time. You could heat a room for seriously a week with a terracotta heater in this candle. So actually pretty happy that it worked out the way that it did, but honestly was a little surprised by it. So just wait for this one to melt. The water was already hot, so I just threw that other one in the bag, and I'll pour that in here in a couple of minutes and we'll be good to go. All right, unplugged our heater, poured the other one in there. Perfect. I wanted it about 1 inch from the top, and that's exactly where it is. Took me 2 3-pound canisters of that shortening. I also trimmed my wick holder up so that it doesn't take up so much space when I put it in the freezer. I'm gonna grab both of these right now and carry it over to the freezer, and we'll get it in there to where it can set up for the next couple hours. You don't need to do this. You could honestly let it sit here overnight and it would set up, but I'm impatient and I have freezer space. All right, there is my can, and I've got my wick holder on there, and you can see I've got it centered so that those were gonna go right where I want. We're gonna leave it out here for a couple of hours. Honestly, 1 will probably be more than enough, but we'll let it sit out here for a bit and check on it, and we'll see what it looks like here in a little while. All right, pulled it out of the freezer and took my wick holder off, trimmed the excess wicks off. You see we got them down there about an inch out of the vegetable oil, and we can come in here, light our wick, take it a second to get going. And look at that. Burns like a champ. This will be great for an emergency candle and to take one of those terracotta planters and put over the top of for just overall heat retention and honestly light. But this should burn for days. I saw one claim that said that they figured something this size, they weren't doing the same thing, but they said that they figured this would burn for 100 days. That seems a little overly optimistic, but be good for a week emergency and to also help heat a room with a terracotta pot over the top of it to help retain that heat in there. Really easy to do, simple. Cost me $7, $8 for the clean new paint can. Had a piece of cardboard. The wick kit was, I think, $6 from Amazon. And then I did get 2 3-pound tubs of vegetable oil from Walmart. I want to say they were $5 each. I'm into this whole thing, I don't know, $25, give or take, and got an emergency candle.